The stars looked different from this angle. Zaravek watched them through the cracked view screen of her ship. Warning lights flashed all around her. Alarms screamed. The ship was falling. This was not how her mission was supposed to go. Zara was a commander in the Neltharion fleet. Her people were strong, advanced, and proud. They had traveled the stars for thousands of years, and now she was about to die on a backwater planet called Earth. "Status report," she said, even though she already knew the answer. "All systems failing," replied the ship's computer. "Impact in 45 seconds, Zara closed her amber eyes. Their vertical pupils narrowed to thin lines. Her blue-tinted skin seemed to pale as she accepted her fate. The mission had been simple. Watch the humans from orbit, learn about their weapons, their wars, their weaknesses. The Neltharion High Command wanted to know if humans were a threat. Now she would never report back. The ship, called the Midnight Whisper, shook violently as it tore through Earth's atmosphere. Fire streamed past the viewports. Metal screamed as it bent and broke. Zara gripped her command chair, her 6 fingers wrapping tightly around the armrests. "Impact in 10 seconds, said the computer, its voice calm despite the chaos. Zara thought of her homeworld with its 3 moons and purple skies. She thought of her family, who would never know what happened to her. She thought of the humans below, who would soon find evidence that they were not alone in the universe. 5 seconds, she closed her eyes. 4. She steadied her breathing. 3. She accepted her death. 2. She hoped it would be quick. 1. The world exploded into noise and pain and darkness. Ethan Reeves was chopping wood when he saw the light streak across the sky. It was too bright to be a shooting star, too slow to be lightning. He watched as it disappeared behind the distant trees with a rumble that shook the ground. Something had crashed in the forest. Ethan put down his axe and went into his cabin. He grabbed his backpack, already packed with first aid supplies, water, and food. Old habits from his time as a military medic. Always be prepared. He added a flashlight, his hunting knife, and a small handgun. Not that he expected trouble, but it was better to be safe. The sun was setting as he hiked into the forest. His cabin sat alone in the Montana wilderness, miles from the nearest neighbor. That was how Ethan liked it. After 3 tours overseas, he'd had enough of people. The quiet of the forest helped quiet the noise in his head. It took him 2 hours to reach the crash site. Night had fallen, but he didn't need his flashlight to find it. The glow of hot metal and small fires lit up the clearing where the object had landed. Ethan paused at the edge of the trees. What he saw made no sense. It wasn't a plane or a satellite. The object was sleek and curved, made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb the light from the fires around it. Parts of it glowed with blue lights that flickered and died. It was a spaceship. It had to be. Ethan should leave. He should turn around, hike back to his cabin, and pretend he never saw this. Call the authorities, maybe. Let them handle it. Instead, he moved closer. The ship had broken into several pieces. The largest part lay in the center of the clearing, smoke rising from what looked like an engine. Debris was scattered everywhere. Ethan stepped carefully, making his way to what he guessed was the front of the ship. Part of the hull had cracked open. Inside, he could see blinking lights and strange symbols on screens. And something else. A figure slumped over what looked like a control panel. Ethan hesitated. This was the moment in every sci-fi movie where the main character makes a dumb decision and gets killed by the alien. But he was a medic. Someone might be hurt. He climbed through the broken hull, careful not to cut himself on the jagged edges. The air inside smelled of burned metal and something sweet like cinnamon. The figure at the controls wasn't moving. Ethan approached slowly, flashlight now in hand. The beam illuminated the scene. It wasn't human. That much was clear right away. The figure had humanoid shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but the similarities ended there. Its skin was blue with an iridescent shimmer. Its hands had 6 fingers each, and when Ethan gently turned its face, he saw that its features were almost human, but too perfect, too symmetrical. Its closed eyes had double lids, an alien, a real, actual alien. Ethan's first thought wasn't fear or wonder. It was, check for a pulse. He placed his fingers against the alien's neck, feeling for a heartbeat. The skin was cool to the touch, but not cold. He felt a pulse, faster than a human's, but steady. The alien was alive. Ethan went into medic mode. He checked for obvious injuries, finding a deep cut on the alien's arm and what looked like a broken leg. The blue blood that seeped from the wounds glowed slightly in the dark. He had just opened his first aid kit when the alien's eyes snapped open. They were amber, with vertical pupils, like a cat's. Those eyes fixed on Ethan with a look of pure terror. The alien said something in a language Ethan couldn't understand. Its voice was musical but harsh with fear. It tried to move away from him but cried out in pain. "Hey, it's okay," Ethan said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help." The alien's hand moved to its side where something that looked like a weapon was strapped. Ethan tensed, but the alien's fingers couldn't seem to grasp it. It was too weak. "Look," Ethan said, taking out a bandage. "You're hurt. Let me help you." He moved slowly, telegraphing his actions as he applied pressure to the wound on the alien's arm. The alien watched him with those strange eyes, fear giving way to confusion. It said something else. This time, a small device on its wrist lit up and the alien's words were translated into English. "Why are you helping me?" The voice from the device was flat and computerized, but the question was clear. Ethan shrugged. "Because you need help." The alien studied him for a long moment. Then it spoke again, the device translating. "I am Commander Zara Vek of the Neltharian fleet. You should know that my people consider humans a potential threat." Ethan smiled slightly as he continued to treat the wound. "Well, Zaravek, I'm Ethan Reeves, former U.S. Army medic, and right now you're the one who's hurt, not me." He finished bandaging the arm and moved to examine the leg. "This is broken. I need to set it before I move you." Zara tensed. "Move me where?" "To my cabin," Ethan said. "Unless you'd prefer I call the government to come pick you up." The fear returned to those alien eyes. "No, your authorities must not know I am here." "That's what I figured," Ethan said. "This is going to hurt." He set the broken bone as gently as he could. Zara made no sound, but her face contorted in pain. Ethan splinted the leg, then sat back. "Why did your ship crash?" he asked. "Engine failure," Zara said through the translator. "It was unexpected." Ethan nodded. "Well, I can't fix your ship, but I can get you somewhere safe until you figure out your next move." Zara looked at him with suspicion. "Why would you help an alien? Your kind fears what is different." Ethan thought about the war, about the things he'd seen people do to each other, about how he'd retreated to the woods to get away from humanity. "Some of us do," he admitted, "but not all of us. Can you walk if I help you?" Zara hesitated, then nodded. Ethan helped her stand, supporting her weight as she limped. She was lighter than she looked, almost delicate despite her military bearing. Together they made their way out of the crashed ship and into the dark forest. Zara looked back once at the wreckage of the Midnight Whisper. "My mission," she said quietly. "What was your mission?" Ethan asked as they walked slowly through the trees. Zara was silent for a long moment. "To determine if humans are a threat that must be eliminated." Ethan paused, then continued walking. "And what will you tell your people now?" Zara looked at the human who was helping her despite knowing what she was, what she had come to do. "I don't know," she said honestly. As they disappeared into the forest, neither of them noticed the small drone that hovered above the crash site, its camera recording everything. Ethan's cabin was small but solid. Built with his own hands after he left the army, it had everything he needed. A bedroom, a bathroom with running water from a well, a kitchen, and a main room with a fireplace. Solar panels on the roof provided power. It was simple. It was enough. Now it had an alien in it. Zara sat on Ethan's couch watching him as he made soup on the stove. Her leg was propped up on a pillow, her blue skin shimmering in the firelight. She had not spoken much during the long walk from the crash site. Now in the light, she studied her surroundings with careful eyes. "Your dwelling is primitive," she said through her translator. Ethan smiled as he stirred the soup. "Compared to a spaceship, yeah, I guess it is." "You live alone," Zara observed. It wasn't a question. "I like the quiet," Ethan said. He brought her a bowl of soup and set it on the small table beside her. Zara looked at it with suspicion. "It's not poison," Ethan said, sitting in a chair across from her with his own bowl. "Though I don't know if you can eat human food." Zara picked up the spoon with her 6-fingered hand. She sniffed the soup, then tasted a small amount. After a moment, she nodded. "It is acceptable. My species can digest most carbon-based nutrients." They ate in silence for a while. Ethan had 1,000 questions but held them back. The alien was clearly wary, in pain and in shock from the crash. Better to let her speak when she was ready. Finally, Zara put down her empty bowl. You should have called your authorities. Why didn't you? Ethan shrugged. I've seen what governments do with things they don't understand. They take them apart to see how they work. You fear they would dissect me, Zara said bluntly. Wouldn't they? Zara didn't answer. She looked around the cabin again. How far are we from the crash site? About 5 miles, Ethan said. Why planning to go back? I need to destroy what's left, Zara said. Your people cannot be allowed to find Neltharion technology. Too late for that, Ethan said. That crash wasn't exactly subtle. Someone will have noticed, and even if they didn't, I don't think you're walking 5 miles on that leg anytime soon. Zara's face showed frustration. Ethan noticed that her expressions were remarkably human-like, though the color of her skin and the shape of her eyes were alien. Don't worry about it tonight, Ethan said, standing to take their bowls to the sink. Get some rest. We'll figure it out in the morning. Zara watched him wash the dishes. You were a soldier, she said. Ethan's hands paused for a moment. Medic, 3 tours. You have seen combat. More than I wanted to. Zara nodded. It explains why you are not afraid of me. Ethan dried his hands and turned to face her. Should I be? Zara looked at her injured leg, then back at Ethan. Not in my current state. Ethan laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in months. That's comforting. He showed Zara how to use the bathroom, explained that she could have his bed while he took the couch, and gave her one of his t-shirts to sleep in. Her uniform, a sleek metallic suit that seemed to shift colors in the light, was torn and dirty from the crash. As he turned to leave the bedroom, Zara spoke. Why are you helping me, Ethan Reeves? Ethan thought about it. I guess because it's the right thing to do. Zara tilted her head. My mission was to determine if your species is a threat. Do you understand what that means? That your people are thinking about wiping us out? Ethan said, his voice calm. Zara seemed surprised by his bluntness. Yes, and what will you tell them when you get back? Zara was silent for a long moment. I do not know if I can get back, Ethan nodded. Well, we'll figure that out too. Good night, Commander. He closed the door, leaving Zara alone with her thoughts. Zara did not sleep much that night. Her leg throbbed, though less than it should have. Neltharions healed faster than humans, an evolutionary advantage. By morning, the bone would be nearly mended. She thought about her situation. She was stranded on a primitive world with no way to contact her fleet. Her ship was destroyed. She was at the mercy of a human who, by all logic, should be her enemy. Yet he had helped her. He had treated her wounds, fed her, given her shelter. He had not called his authorities, who would indeed have taken her for study. He seemed kind. It did not match what she had been told about humans. The Neltharion High Command viewed them as dangerous, violent, and unpredictable. Watching their broadcasts, their news programs full of war and conflict, it was easy to see why. But Ethan was different. Or perhaps he was the same as all humans and the High Command was wrong. The thought was almost treason. Zara got out of bed carefully, testing her leg. It held her weight with only a twinge of pain. She moved to the window and looked out at the forest. Earth was beautiful in a wild, untamed way. Nothing like the carefully managed landscapes of her home world. In the distance, she saw lights, moving lights coming closer. Vehicles. Zara moved quickly to the bedroom door and opened it. Ethan was already awake, standing at the front window with a pair of binoculars. We have company, he said without turning around. Black SUVs. Government plates. Zara felt a surge of fear. How did they find us so quickly? Probably tracked the crash. Maybe followed our trail from there. Ethan turned to face her. We need to go now. He moved with efficient speed, grabbing a backpack and filling it with supplies. Food, water, first aid kit, flashlight, extra clothes. He took a small box from a high shelf and opened it to reveal a handgun, which he checked and tucked into his waistband. Can you walk? He asked Zara. She nodded. Yes, my people heal quickly. Good, put these on. He tossed her a pair of jeans, a flannel shirt, and a baseball cap. It won't hide the fact that you're not human, but it might help from a distance. Zara changed quickly. The clothes were too big but would serve their purpose. Ethan handed her a jacket as well, which would hide her blue skin better than the shirt alone. There's a tunnel, Ethan said, moving a rug to reveal a trap door in the floor. I built it when I built the cabin. Old habits and paranoia, Zara asked. Preparation, Ethan corrected, opening the trap door. Come on. The tunnel was narrow and dark. Ethan led the way with a flashlight, moving quickly but carefully. Zara followed, wondering why this human was risking so much for her. "Who are these people?" she asked as they crawled through the dirt passage. "If I had to guess, probably a Black Ops unit," Ethan said. "The kind that doesn't officially exist. They deal with unusual situations, like aliens," Zara said. "Like aliens," Ethan agreed. The tunnel ended at a small door covered with brush and dirt from the outside. Ethan pushed it open carefully, peering out before motioning for Zara to follow. They emerged in the forest, 100 yards behind the cabin. In the dim light of dawn, Zara could see the black vehicles parked in front of Ethan's home. Men in tactical gear were already at the door. "This way," Ethan whispered, leading her deeper into the trees. They moved quickly through the forest. Ethan seemed to know exactly where he was going, following game trails and streams to hide their tracks. Zara kept pace despite her healing leg. She was a warrior, trained to endure much worse than this. After an hour of hard hiking, they stopped in a small clearing to rest. Ethan gave Zara water from his pack, which she drank gratefully. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. "You are risking your life for someone who was sent to judge whether your entire species deserves to live." Ethan drank from the water bottle, considering his answer. "When I was in Afghanistan, I treated a kid who'd been shot by our own guys. Mistake, they said. Wrong place, wrong time. I saved his life, and a month later he set off a bomb that killed 3 of my friends." He handed the bottle back to Zara. "I could have let him die. Maybe I should have. But that's not who I am. I help people who need help, even if they might be the enemy." Zara was silent, processing this. It was a kind of honor she understood, even if it seemed foolish. "Besides," Ethan added with a small smile, "I've been wanting to get away from that cabin for a while. You're just a good excuse." Zara didn't return the smile. "Where are we going?" "I have a friend," Ethan said. "Lives off the grid about 20 miles from here. She can help us. Is she trustworthy?" "No," Ethan said honestly. "But she hates the government more than she hates aliens, so that's something." They continued moving through the forest. Zara noticed that Ethan kept checking behind them, watching for signs of pursuit. She also noticed that he moved like a soldier, alert and balanced, ready for trouble. By midday, they had covered 10 miles. Ethan called for another break by a small stream. As Zara sat on a rock, resting her legs, she saw him tense suddenly. "What is it?" she asked, reaching instinctively for a weapon she didn't have. "Listen," Ethan whispered. Zara listened. Her hearing was sharper than a human's. She heard the distant sound of helicopter rotors. "They're tracking us from the air," Ethan said. "We need to find cover." Just then, Zara's translator picked up a voice coming from somewhere to their left. "Team 2 in position." No visual on targets yet. They were surrounded. Ethan heard it too. He looked at Zara, his expression grim. "Run," he said. "I'll hold them off." Zara shook her head. "No, I will not leave you to face them alone." "This isn't a debate," Ethan said firmly. "They want you, not me. I can talk my way out of this." "You can't. You don't know that," Zara argued. Zara moved through the forest like a shadow, her footsteps silent on the soft ground. Her Neltharion training served her well as she avoided breaking branches or disturbing the underbrush. Behind her, she could hear the humans crashing through the trees, their voices carrying in the quiet forest. "Spread out." "The alien went this way." "Are you sure?" "I don't see anything." Thermal imaging shows something moving fast to the west, not human body temperature. Zara smiled grimly. Of course they would have thermal imaging. She needed to find water, something to mask her heat signature. The stream Ethan had mentioned would help, but she needed to reach it first. Ethan. She wondered what had happened to him. Had the soldiers believed his story, whatever it was? Or had they taken him, punished him for helping her? The thought bothered her more than it should have. She reached the stream and waded into the cold water, moving upstream against the current. It would hide her tracks and cool her body temperature. The water came up to her knees, soaking the human jeans she wore. They became heavy, dragging at her legs, but she pushed on. After half a mile, she left the stream, climbing up the rocky bank where she would leave no footprints. She paused, listening. The sounds of pursuit had faded. She had lost them for now. Zara checked her translator. It was waterproof, thankfully, but its battery was low. It had not been designed for extended use away from the ship. She would need to be careful with it. She continued west, as Ethan had instructed. The forest began to thin, giving way to more open ground. In the distance, she could see mountains, their peaks white with snow despite the summer heat. Beautiful but harsh, not a good place to be stranded. After another hour of walking, Zara found the road. It was small, just 2 lanes of cracked asphalt winding through the trees. She stayed hidden in the forest edge, watching. A few cars passed, but none of them looked like government vehicles. North, Ethan had said. But now that she was here, Zara wasn't sure what to do. She couldn't walk along the road in daylight. Even with the human clothes, her blue skin and amber eyes would attract attention. She needed to wait for dark. Zara found a hollow beneath a fallen tree and crawled inside. It wasn't comfortable, but it was hidden. She needed to rest to think. What was her plan now? She was stranded on Earth with no way to contact her people. Her ship was destroyed. She had no weapons, no supplies, and was being hunted by human authorities. And the one human who had helped her was probably captured or dead. For the first time in her long life, Commander Zarovek had no mission parameters to follow. She closed her eyes and tried to rest. Zara woke to the sound of a vehicle stopping nearby. It was dusk, the forest growing dark around her. She lay still, listening. A car door opened and closed. Footsteps approached her hiding place. "Zara," a voice whispered. "Are you there?" "It's me, Ethan." Zara remained silent. It could be a trap. The humans might have captured Ethan and forced him to help find her. "I know you're nearby." Ethan continued, his voice still low. "I followed the trail you left. Well, the lack of a trail. You're good, but I was trained to track people who don't want to be found." He paused, then added, "I'm alone. I got away from them. We need to move, though. They're not far behind." Zara made her decision. She crawled out from under the fallen tree, staying low and ready to run if necessary. Ethan stood a few yards away, looking tired but unharmed. He smiled when he saw her. "There you are. Come on, I borrowed a car." "Borrowed?" Zara asked, her translator making the word sound flat. "Okay, stole," Ethan admitted. "From one of the agents. I left him tied to a tree. He'll be fine, but embarrassed when they find him." Zara followed Ethan to a small black car parked on the side of the road. It looked ordinary, not like the government vehicles she had seen earlier. "How did you escape?" she asked as they got into the car. Ethan started the engine and pulled onto the road. "I told them I was a hiker who got lost, that I saw something crash in the forest but was too scared to investigate. They pretended to believe me, took me back to their command post for questioning." He glanced at Zara. "Their security was good, but not good enough. When they tried to transfer me to a more secure facility, I made my move. Took out 2 guards, stole a car, and came looking for you." "Why?" Zara asked. "You could have been free. Why come back for me?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Because they're not just looking for you. They're looking for any technology from your ship. Weapons specifically. I heard them talking about it." "And you wish to keep such weapons from your own people?" Zara asked, confused. "I wish to keep them from people who would use them to hurt others," Ethan said firmly. "There's a difference." They drove in silence for a while. Zara watched the forest pass by through the window. The sky grew darker, stars beginning to appear. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "Like I said before, to a friend," Ethan replied. "Her name is Samantha Doyle, Sam. She used to work for a government research facility, but she left when she found out what they were really doing there." "What were they doing?" Ethan's face grew grim. "Experimenting on things they didn't understand. Things that weren't from Earth." Zara felt a chill. "They have encountered my people before?" "Not your people specifically. At least I don't think so. But other things. Crashed satellites with strange tech, objects that fell from the sky. Once something that might have been alive." He glanced at her. "Sam never gave me details. She was too scared. But she knows more about this stuff than anyone else I trust." Zara looked out at the stars again. How many of her people had come to this world before her? How many had never returned? "What is this group called?" she asked. "The ones hunting us. Project Sentinel," Ethan said. "At least that's what was on the ID badges I saw. Black Ops, like I thought. Probably report directly to someone high up in the government." Zara nodded. It made sense. If her people ever made official contact with Earth, it would be through military channels. Humans, like Neltharians, put their warriors at the front. They drove through the night, stopping only once to get fuel. Ethan went into the store while Zara hid in the car. Hood pulled up to hide her face. He returned with food and water, which they ate as they continued driving. By dawn, they had left the forest behind. The landscape was more open now, with rolling hills and small towns that they avoided. Ethan took back roads, watching for any signs of pursuit. "We're being followed," Zara said suddenly, looking in the side mirror. Ethan checked his rearview mirror. "The black SUV? I've been watching it for the last 10 miles. Could be nothing. It's them," Zara said with certainty. "They're staying back, waiting for us to lead them somewhere." Ethan nodded. "Then we should give them what they want." He turned off the main road onto a dirt track that led up into the hills. The SUV followed, no longer pretending not to be interested. "What are you doing?" Zara asked, gripping the dashboard as the car bounced over the rough road. "Taking them somewhere they can't call for backup," Ethan said, his face set in concentration. "Hold on." He pressed the accelerator, the car lurching forward with speed. The SUV behind them sped up too, gaining ground. "They're faster than us," Zara observed. "Yes," Ethan agreed, "but I bet they're not as good at driving on mountain roads." He took a sharp turn, the car sliding on the loose dirt. Zara braced herself against the door. The SUV followed, but more cautiously. The road grew steeper, winding up the hillside. Ethan drove with skill, taking the curves fast but controlled. The SUV stayed behind them, sometimes gaining, sometimes falling back. "There," Ethan said, nodding at a narrow track that branched off the main road. "That's our turn." He swung the car onto the track, which was barely wide enough for the vehicle. Trees scraped against the sides as they drove deeper into the forest. "Now what?" Zara asked. "Now we ditch the car and disappear," Ethan said, bringing the vehicle to a stop in a small clearing. "They'll waste time searching this area while we go over the ridge on foot." They got out of the car quickly. Ethan grabbed his backpack from the back seat, then led Zara into the trees. They climbed up a steep slope, using roots and rocks as handholds. Behind and below them, they heard the SUV reach the clearing. "They're here," Zara whispered. "Keep moving," Ethan said. They reached the top of the ridge and dropped down on the other side, out of sight. Ethan led them along a narrow game trail that followed the contour of the hill. "How far to your friend's place?" Zara asked, her breathing even despite the exertion. "About 5 miles, Ethan said. "But we need to be careful. They might have people watching the approaches." They walked for 2 hours, staying under the cover of trees whenever possible. Ethan seemed to know the area well, navigating without hesitation. Finally, they came to a high fence with warning signs posted along it. "Private property and no trespassing, and trespassers will be shot." "Charming," Zara commented. "Sam likes her privacy," Ethan said with a small smile. He approached the fence and pressed a small button hidden on one of the posts. "Sam, it's Ethan. I've got a friend with me. We need help." There was silence for a moment, then a crackle of static. "Define friend," a woman's voice said through a hidden speaker. Ethan looked at Zara. "She's not from around here." Another pause. "Sentinel?" "On our tail," Ethan confirmed. "Damn it, Ethan." The voice sounded annoyed but not surprised. "Eastgate. 2 minutes. Don't make me wait." The morning came too quickly. Zara woke to the sound of voices in the main room of Sam's cabin. She dressed in the clean clothes Sam had provided, dark pants, a black shirt, and a jacket that would help her blend into the shadows. Her blue skin was still a problem, but Sam had thought of that too. In the main room, Sam was showing Ethan a collection of equipment laid out on the table. She looked up as Zara entered. "Good, you're up. Try this." She tossed Zara a small tube. "It's a special makeup I developed for undercover work. Should cover the blue." Zara examined the tube with interest. "Your people use disguises in their espionage as well?" "Intelligence gathering," Sam corrected with a small smile. "And yes, sometimes we need to look like someone we're not." Zara applied the makeup to her face and hands. It went on smoothly and dried quickly, leaving her skin looking human-toned if a bit pale. She couldn't do anything about her eyes, but Sam had a solution for that too, a pair of sunglasses. "Not ideal for a night operation," Sam admitted, "but better than nothing." Ethan was checking a small backpack. "We've got communications gear, tools for bypassing security systems, and some basic weapons." He showed Zara a small pistol. "Do you know how to use one of these?" Zara took the gun, examined it, then handed it back. "My people's weapons are different, but the principle is the same. I prefer not to use such primitive tools, however." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Primitive?" Your firearms use chemical explosions to propel metal projectiles, Zara explained. We stopped using such methods 5,000 years ago. Well, it's all we've got, Ethan said, tucking the gun into his waistband. Unless you've got a ray gun hidden somewhere. If I did, we would not be planning this mission, Zara pointed out. Sam watched their exchange with interest. You two argue like an old married couple. When they both looked at her in surprise, she laughed. Let's focus on the plan. She pulled up a map on one of her screens. I've been monitoring Sentinel's communications. They've set up a command post here at the edge of the crash site. The ship itself is spread over about half a mile with the main section here. She pointed to a spot in the forest. They've got about 20 personnel on site working in shifts. Security is tightest around the main section of the ship, which is where you'll need to go to find the communications equipment, right? She looked at Zara. Zara nodded. Yes. The primary communications array would have been in the command center. If it survived the crash, that's where it will be. And can you repair it? Ethan asked. I don't know, Zara admitted. I won't know until I see what's left. Sam continued with the plan. I'll drop you here about 2 miles from the site. You'll need to approach on foot, avoiding these patrol routes. She traced lines on the map. Once you're at the perimeter, you'll have to deal with motion sensors and cameras. I can handle those, Ethan said confidently. You'll have about 20 minutes between patrols to get in. Find what you need and get out, Sam warned. Any longer and they'll know something's wrong. 20 minutes is not much time, Zara said, frowning. It's all you're going to get, Sam replied. And remember, if you're caught, I don't know you. Ethan nodded. We understand. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Sam showed them detailed satellite images of the area, pointing out the best approach routes and potential hiding spots. Ethan practiced with the security bypass tools, while Zara tried to recall exactly where in the ship the communications array would be. As evening fell, they loaded into Sam's truck. She drove carefully, taking back roads and forest tracks that weren't on any maps. They rode in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Zara found herself watching Ethan. This human had risked everything to help her, his home, his safety, perhaps even his life. And now he was about to risk even more, sneaking into a heavily guarded military site. Why? He said it was the right thing to do, but was that enough reason to take such risks? Neltharians were not known for their selflessness. They were pragmatic, calculating. They did what was necessary for the greater good of their people. Individual sacrifice was honored, but it was always in service to the whole. Ethan's actions made no sense in that context. He was risking himself for someone who was not even of his species, someone whose people might one day be enemies of his own. It was illogical. It was foolish. It was admirable. Sam stopped the truck at the edge of a small clearing. This is as far as I go, she said. It's about 2 miles that way. She pointed into the dark forest. The path should be clear for the first mile, then you'll need to be careful. She handed Ethan a small device. Panic button. Press it if things go bad, and I'll create a distraction on the other side of the site. It might give you a chance to get away. Ethan took the device and tucked it into a pocket. Thanks, Sam. Sam looked at them both, her expression serious. Don't get caught. And don't get killed. We'll try not to, Ethan said with a small smile. They got out of the truck and watched as Sam drove away, her taillights disappearing into the darkness. Then they turned and headed into the forest. Ethan led the way, using a small red-filtered flashlight to check their path. Zara followed close behind, her night vision better than his. They moved quietly, avoiding dry branches and loose stones. The first mile was easy, as Sam had said. The path was clear, and there were no signs of Sentinel patrols. But as they got closer to the crash site, they began to see evidence of human activity. Broken branches, footprints, small markers tied to trees. Ethan stopped and switched off his flashlight. From here we go dark, he whispered. Stay close. They continued more slowly now, pausing often to listen and watch. In the distance, they could see lights, the Sentinel command post. They circled around it, keeping to the shadows. As they got closer to the crash site, Zara began to feel a strange sense of anticipation. The Midnight Whisper had been her home for many years. Seeing it broken and in human hands would be difficult. They reached the perimeter Sam had identified. Ethan took out a small device and scanned for electronic signals. Motion sensors every 20 feet, he whispered. and cameras covering the approaches. But there's a gap here. He pointed to a section where the underbrush was particularly thick. They probably figured no one could get through that. Can we? Zara asked. Ethan smiled in the darkness. Watch me. He got down on his stomach and began to crawl through the dense brush. Zara followed, wincing as thorns scratched at her face and hands. The makeup Sam had given her was good, but it wouldn't hold up to close inspection if it got too damaged. They emerged on the other side of the perimeter without triggering any alarms. Ahead of them, they could see the main section of the Midnight Whisper illuminated by portable lights. Sentinel personnel moved around it, taking readings and photos. There, Zara whispered, pointing to a section of the ship that was less damaged than the rest. That's the command center. Ethan checked his watch. Patrol coming through in 5 minutes. We need to time this perfectly. They watched as a pair of guards walked the perimeter of the site, checking equipment and scanning the surrounding forest with night vision goggles. As soon as the guards passed, Ethan tapped Zara's arm. Now, he whispered. They moved quickly across the open ground, staying low. The crashed ship loomed above them, its once sleek hull now broken and scarred. They reached the command center section and pressed themselves against it, out of sight of the guards. Ethan took out a small tool and began working on the damaged hatch. It was designed to be opened from the inside, but the crash had warped the metal. It took precious minutes to get it open, time they couldn't afford to lose. Finally, the hatch gave way with a soft groan of metal. They slipped inside into the darkness of the ship. Zara felt a wave of emotion as she entered the familiar space. This had been her domain, her responsibility. Now it was a wreck, its systems dark and silent. She pushed the feelings aside and moved purposefully toward the communications console. This way, she whispered to Ethan, who was looking around in wonder at the alien technology. The command center was a mess of broken equipment and loose wires. Emergency lighting still functioned in places, casting an eerie blue glow over the scene. Zara went straight to a panel near what had been her command chair. Here, she said, kneeling beside it. This is the auxiliary communications array. The primary one is too damaged to use. She began working quickly, her 6-fingered hands moving with practiced efficiency despite the unfamiliar gloves Sam had given her to hide her alien features. Ethan kept watch at the hatch, checking his watch frequently. 10 minutes left, he warned. Zara didn't respond, focused entirely on her task. The array was damaged but not beyond repair. She disconnected broken components and rerouted power from emergency systems. It was delicate work made harder by the poor light and the time pressure. 8 minutes, Ethan said. Zara felt sweat beading on her forehead. The makeup itched, but she ignored it. She was close, very close. The array's indicators began to light up as power flowed through repaired circuits. I've got it, she said softly. It's working. She input a series of commands, sending a tight beam transmission to a Neltharion relay station in the outer solar system. The message was brief but contained her identification codes and location. But as the transmission completed, a secondary screen activated, showing an incoming message. Zara stared at it in shock. Washington, D.C. was unlike anything Zara had seen on Earth so far. The human capital was a mix of old stone buildings and modern glass towers, crowded streets and open green spaces. In another time, she might have found it fascinating. Now she could only see it as a target. Remember the plan, Sam said as she drove their borrowed car through the city streets. We're not trying to get into the Pentagon itself. That would be suicide. General Bennett has a townhouse in Georgetown, Ethan explained to Zara. We'll try to catch her there. Outside of official channels, Zara nodded, adjusting the baseball cap that helped hide her distinctive features. The makeup Sam had created covered her blue skin, and the cap and sunglasses hid her eyes and the shape of her head. From a distance, she could pass for human. Up close was another matter, and if she doesn't listen, Zara asked. Then we're out of options, Ethan said grimly. They had driven straight through from Montana, taking turns at the wheel. 3 days had passed since they discovered the Neltharion fleet was coming. 4 days remained until its arrival. Sam parked the car on a quiet street lined with expensive-looking homes. That's it, she said, nodding toward a 3-story brick townhouse with white trim. According to my sources, the general lives there when she's in D.C., which she should be, Ethan added. There's a major defense conference this week. They watched the house for an hour, making sure there was no unusual security presence. Finally, Ethan made his decision. "I'll go alone first," he said. "If she recognizes me and is willing to talk, I'll signal for you two to join us." "And if she calls security instead?" Sam asked. "Then get out of here and try another approach," Ethan said firmly. Zara put a hand on his arm. "Be careful." Ethan looked at her, something unspoken passing between them. "I will." They watched as he crossed the street and walked up to the general's door. He rang the bell and waited, standing straight, almost at attention. The door opened, revealing a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and the rigid posture of a career military officer. Even from a distance, Zara could see the moment of recognition on the woman's face as she saw Ethan. They spoke briefly, then the general stepped back, allowing Ethan to enter the house. The door closed behind them. "Now we wait," Sam said, settling back in her seat. 10 minutes passed, 20. Zara began to worry that something had gone wrong. What if the general had called security after all? What if Ethan was being arrested right now? Just as she was about to suggest they check, the front door opened again. Ethan stepped out and made a subtle gesture with his hand. "That's the signal," Sam said, starting the car. "Let's go." They parked directly in front of the townhouse, then hurried to the door where Ethan waited for them. "She'll listen," he said in a low voice as they entered. "But she's skeptical. Zara, you'll need to convince her." The general was waiting in a study at the back of the house. She stood as they entered, her eyes widening slightly as she saw Zara. "So it's true," she said quietly. "Ethan said you weren't human, but I had to see for myself." Zara removed her sunglasses, revealing her amber eyes with their vertical pupils. "General Bennett, thank you for agreeing to meet with us." The general gestured for them to sit. "Ethan says you have information about an imminent threat to national security." "I'm listening." Zara took a deep breath and began to explain. She told the general about the Neltharion fleet, about their weapons capabilities and tactical approach. She explained how they had been watching Earth for decades, evaluating whether humans posed a threat to galactic stability. "And they've decided we do," the general said when Zara finished. "Yes," Zara confirmed. "The High Command believes humans are too aggressive, too expansionist. They see your rapid technological development as a warning sign. So they decided to wipe us out before we become a problem," the general said, her voice hard. "Sounds like they're the aggressive ones." "My people value stability above all else," Zara explained. "They believe it's better to eliminate a potential threat early than to wait until it becomes unmanageable." "And what do you believe, Commander?" the general asked, studying Zara carefully. Zara met her gaze. "I believe they're wrong about humans. Yes, you can be violent, territorial, but you can also be kind, selfless, even to those who are different from you." She glanced at Ethan. "I've seen it firsthand." The general was silent for a moment, thinking, "Let's say I believe you. What can we do against a fleet with technology far beyond our own?" "You have advantages they don't expect," Zara said. "Your military is decentralized, adaptable. The Neltharions expect to destroy your command centers and watch your forces fall into disarray, but your soldiers and officers are trained to operate independently if necessary." "And their weapons?" the general asked. Zara described the Neltharion arsenal: energy weapons, gravitational disruptors, atmospheric converters that could render large areas uninhabitable. "But they have weaknesses," she added. "Their ships are vulnerable to certain frequencies of electromagnetic pulse, and they won't be expecting significant resistance. They believe this will be a simple operation." The general leaned forward. "You're really willing to betray your own people to help us?" "I'm trying to prevent a mistake," Zara said firmly. "My people don't understand yours. They see only the danger, not the potential. If they destroy humanity, it would be a tragedy beyond measure." The general studied her for a long moment, then made her decision. "I need to make some calls." The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, briefings, and preparations. General Bennett had taken their warning to her superiors, who were initially skeptical but became convinced when Zara provided technical details that matched anomalies Earth scientists had been detecting in the outer solar system. A global response was hastily organized, with as much secrecy as possible to avoid public panic. Military forces were put on high alert. Scientists worked around the clock to develop countermeasures based on Zara's information. Through it all, Ethan stayed by Zara's side, acting as her guide and protector in the confusing world of human military and political bureaucracy. Sam used her technical expertise to help develop defenses against Neltharion technology. On the eve of the fleet's arrival, Zara stood on the roof of a secure government facility, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, her people were approaching, preparing to destroy this world that she had come to see in a new light. She heard footsteps and turned to see Ethan joining her. "Everything's in place," he said, coming to stand beside her. "As ready as we can be, anyway." Zara nodded. "It may not be enough." "It has to be," Ethan said simply. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of tomorrow's confrontation heavy between them. "I never thanked you," Zara said finally, "for saving me from the crash, for helping me when you had every reason not to." Ethan smiled slightly. "You know why I did it." "Because it was the right thing to do," Zara repeated his words from what seemed like a lifetime ago. "That, and I've always been too curious for my own good," Ethan admitted. Finding an alien in the woods isn't something that happens every day. Despite the gravity of their situation, Zara found herself smiling. "No, I imagine not." Ethan turned to face her fully. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that meeting you changed how I see the universe. Knowing there's life out there, intelligent life, it matters." "It matters to me too," Zara said softly. "Meeting you changed how I see my own people, our place in the galaxy. We've been so certain of our righteousness, our duty to maintain stability, but at what cost?" Ethan reached out, taking her 6-fingered hand in his 5-fingered one. The gesture was simple but profound. Two different species finding connection despite everything that should have kept them apart. "We should get some rest," he said eventually. "Tomorrow will be challenging." Zara nodded, but neither of them moved immediately. They stood together a moment longer, looking up at the stars that would soon bring either salvation or destruction. The Neltharion fleet arrived at dawn. Earth's advanced warning systems detected their approach. 7 warships, entering the solar system exactly as Zara had predicted. They moved with precision, following standard Neltharion tactical patterns. In the command center deep beneath Washington, D.C., Zara watched the monitors with General Bennett, Ethan, Sam, and a dozen high-ranking military and government officials. The tension in the room was palpable. "They're scanning Earth's defenses," Zara said, reading the data on the screens. "Looking for military installations, power grids, communication networks." "Let them look," the general said grimly. "Everything important is shielded or has been moved, thanks to your warning." On the screens, they watched as the lead Neltharion vessel moved into position above Earth's northern hemisphere. It was the Twilight Blade, commanded by Kelvor, an old ally of Zara's. "They're preparing to broadcast a message," Zara said, recognizing the energy signature. "Standard procedure before an attack." A moment later, communications officers reported an incoming transmission on all frequencies. The general nodded and they put it through to the command center's speakers. "Attention, people of Earth," a voice said in perfect English. "This is Commander Kelvor of the Neltharion fleet. Your world has been designated a threat to galactic stability. You will surrender immediately and accept Neltharion guidance or face elimination. You have 1 hour to comply."